is February 2nd, 2026. I have to make sure I get the 6 in. I'm just coming in with you just for a few moments, not a long time. Um, as I've said before, I'd like to do more in studio streams, but I'm just not convinced that the algorithm is going to, if the algorithm, even at this point in time, is going to be kind enough to kind of get it out. And I'm really not, I really don't want to do a whole lot of format. I really don't want to do a whole lot of format. Trying to help people navigate the orientations on screens right now. I really don't want to do a whole lot of that. But what I would do want to talk about is, at some point, I'd like to talk about some global things that are going on, that have gone on already, and from the patterns that I see is kind of what I want to talk about. So with that said, I kind of wanted to talk about this whole. The question is, it's kind of more of a, it could be. So I've got to start out with a guiding question. So I guess the question is, after I took a look at a BBC liner, and it says that the UN risk imminent financial collapse. The Secretary General warns. So, and that's Guterres. I remember that the previous UN Secretary was Tedros Adhanom, and he was there during COVID. So, it's kind of really zoomed in at that particular time. But now you've got this. Guterres is saying, that basically they're in dire straits. A lot is going on. So here's the other. This begs the question. I just have a few little notes here, if you will. My question is: has Trump replaced the UN for the Board of Peace, or his Board of Peace? Okay, and then there's another part of the rabbit hole that I could go down. I could talk about. Okay, well, for these so-called constitutionalists, or I even thought about, well, wow, I haven't really heard a whole lot from Rand Paul on a situation like this, with all of his, his high constitutional voting record. And I'm thankful for my past, and just looking at the records of these people that are on the right dialectic and the left. But hey, it just becomes a constitution. To me, just seems to be a debatable. It's just an argument piece for them. It's just like, this is we have a national debate team, is what I see, or a theater team when I see people on the Congress floor, going back and forth. E.g., Rubio and I see Rubio and Rand Paul go back and forth about Maduro's situation, and basically it's going nowhere. It's going nowhere. But like I said, it just seems like it's just the Constitution itself. If these people, if it really has a pulse, it's a weak pulse. Okay. Yeah, and even their own loyalists, even the base of this so-called right dialectic, they think that they're witnessing real war when it's more like proxy. It's never. I don't think the concept of war is ever going to be declared. And for the modern, like I talk about modern rhetoric, the modern war is not going to look like what it did in the past. So those kinds of expectations, to me, should already be, kind of, it's a moot point. You're not going to see even a World War III. It's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be, it's not going to look like what it did during World War I, World War II. It's not. You're going to have official declarations. No, when have you had an official declaration? When? Just put that in the comment section, okay? So let me just jump into this just a little bit. So here's just my summation after just doing my own little research. Hope you guys are doing well out there. It has been a Burberry last 72 hours. Today, I have some time, so, I decided to drop in for a second. So I may even drop in later. We'll see. I need to try to fit in whatever I can. So here it is. So this is my summation. I'm starting this off. So I'm saying, has Trump replaced the UN for the for his peace board. Okay, so I find it's interesting concept, considering Rubio mentioned in his speech at Davos that this particular venture or this endeavor on a board of peace, or the inauguration of a board of peace out of Davos, was basically showing us what's possible and what's possible in other places around the world, and also where the conflict seems dire or without resolution. So good morning, thank you so much for coming in, Watchman. Hope you're doing well out there. So yeah, but not to mention that he's allegedly, Trump's going to serve as the chair and he have veto power over this board's decisions and the membership. And you got to come in. It's like you got to come in with that $1 billion membership fee. And then this also brought me back to the piece in which Rubio talked about how, we have people from all over the world. We have people of different faiths, mostly Christians, some Muslim, blah, 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 some former adversaries, blah, 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 blah. He talked about, and how some were there because of constitutional conflicts, or I think some of them are looking at how this whole board of peace, maybe it's not in alignment with international law, or it's out of alignment with international law, and that all makes sense. It makes sense. But so right off, good morning, realize, thank you so much for coming in. Peace and blessings to you as well. It kind of speaks to the whole point of you have certain nations that did not. Okay, even keep in mind the UN has Guterres. They've sent out notices to 193 nations, but keep in mind that when it comes to the Board of Peace, you've got the UK that has not signed on. You've got France that has not signed on. You've got, there's tons of nations that haven't signed on. Some of them are saying they're not signing on due to Russian, a Russian conflict or a membership. I'm saying that you've got a lot of reasons being cited. They're citing a lot of reasons, these different nations, for not jumping on to this inaugural Board of Peace that they let the world see last week or the week before at Davos. And get the dates right on that. But yeah, so I just think it's all very interesting that it looks like this is like a partnership in which it's more like an investor type partnership, or where the U.S. will be a top stakeholder in humanitarian crisis, because they're going under the auspices of Gaza. We're going to mediate peace through the Gaza Strip and the other global crises to come. So, but when I think about it, seems like the U.S., the UN kind of got its namesake from a previous American, and I can go back into my history and dig around on that, but I do believe that was the case. So if I'm saying, if that is the argument, I think there's enough that it will hold. It looks like that it's going in that direction, because the UN was not just, it wasn't just conjured out of thin air. The United States had a role in the namesake of the UN. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we can go down. So of course, we all heard Kushner talk about, how do you implement peace, or how do you can't how do you broker peace? It's not like a business deal. Well, he's absolutely correct. Well, in this case, they're throwing money at it, and I think it's going to be more or less the elites that are going to control it. The investment is how that's going to be, how you're going to control that. Who's willing to put up the money? It's almost like they were having an open mind kind of segment of Davos when Kushner, I'm paraphrasing, says, I know it's difficult to support a venture like this, but come out and see what it's about. And so it's like just a big schmoozy kind of rhetoric that Kushner was offering. But not, they didn't get into any real specifics. They talked about, oh, well, what they've accomplished already with the ceasefire, and they talked about those kinds of things. But I'd like to maybe get into it later in an in-studio stream. But like I said, but who's going to be accountable if this thing in this case goes down in a in the shores, in this beach development? I mean, who's going to be accountable if it doesn't go? If all of these ideas are not, they don't quite pan out. And then, like I said, does America really have an abiding interest in, what is the abiding interest in democratizing all of these places, giving people hope and all of these things? But see, that's the thing, to me, that's the thing that they're able to sell, or they're able to hustle people out of ideologies. Do they have anything really to pin there, is it really concrete? It's all very abstract until the money comes into play. So I guess we'll just kind of keep an eye on that. But yeah, it's funny how this comes out about the UN being in dire straits, and how that they're basically going to be in the red if they have to end up, because a lot of the other nations have pulled back their funding. Allegedly, the United States has pulled back at about 30%. They've reduced our contributions at about 30%, but then you've got other nations that have reduced their contributions as well. So we're going to see what this looks like. I think to me, this is definitely going to be one to watch. We'll echo chamber it, but let me know what you think in the comment section. You're always welcome to do that. I really appreciate it. Let's see. I appreciate you guys so much for coming in here and loving on the like button. Around here, I guess that still means something. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for coming in this morning. But I really want to kind of get into this, because this whole Gaza Strip beach development, we'll see how that works. I mean, we'll see. And then to me, the fact that Rubio said that this is what's possible in other parts of the world, or where there's other conflict, to me very well is that what you want to see going forward? Is that what you want to see with other nations that are having, or that have conflicts or issues that are not resolved? Even Zelensky did not sign on to this peace board. So I find you've got some division on a global level is what you've got. And yeah, he's only got so many people. Are you going to see, what's going to come out of this is what I'd love to see. What's actually going to come out of it, the division and all. And where does the U.S. end up in all of this? Simone Watchman says Biden is opening an ice cream shop on the on the Gaza Strip. Well, hey, if he's got the cash, I'm pretty sure that they'll take it. They'll take your money. They'll take your money, as they say. So I will get into this a little bit later, but I do find it interesting that this came out 2 weeks after the Board of Peace inauguration at Davos. So we'll see what that looks like. But let's see. You got it. That's your cross to bear. Listen, I don't have time today. If you don't keep up with it, then you probably you probably need to check, go down to CBS or something. Somebody else has a stream. Yeah, people don't do grow streams on YouTube anymore, so you got to figure out where you belong. Realize says, I watched Marco Rubio for many years, but the man you see today is not the same man who used to have passion for the American people here in Florida. He has sold out. Oh yeah, I believe it. He's the way I just saw him and Rubio and Rand Paul quibbling over what it means to declare war, or what was it, kinetic action. I mean, it was really kind of, and that was on the subject of Rubio and who has the power to declare war. And I mean, it was just, I can't watch these these theater shows anymore. I can't. It's just that, you know, nobody really challenges what goes on. And when they do, it's just more like a little debate, like the top debaters, you know, this week's debate team on Capitol Hill. But yeah, I'm just curious about where this is actually going and why does the U.S. have so. If this is, maybe they're going to say, oh, the American interest is in, you know, this board of peace, and especially in this whole Gaza Strip beach development project, because the United States or the U.S. is somehow going to benefit from this partnership, or from as a stakeholder. And yeah, so like I said, I may come back later with this, because I'd like to get into that actual argument, that actual piece from the BBC. But it's all under the auspices of humanitarian aid, and the UN can't do this without these fees, and if you withdraw this much money, or we used to be able to penalize you based on this, and now we used to be able to I'm telling you, it's just a little bit tiresome at this point. So but we'll keep an eye on it, and if I have a chance, I will get back into you guys later today. But I appreciate you guys so much for coming in. Realize, as well as Simone Watchman. Yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. So thank you guys for coming in and loving on the like button. If you have any questions or comments, you can add them to the comment section. Like I said, I think a lot of people are they just love to, they think that they're, you know, that they think that they're winning. They think that they're winning through what they call capitalism. And that's enough for people at this point. With everything that's going on in this country, they still think that's a winning point, or they still think they're winning with this left and right dialectic, especially the right. But we'll see the right dialectic part. Whatever, it's all an illusion. There's not one. Okay, I think I've learned enough. I've done enough of my own research to realize. No. It's definitely a different order that we're in at this point. And some of these people will say anything to defend their favorite flavor, so they can keep up their they can keep idolizing the same person. They don't care. That's their God. You know, they don't care. They don't care. They love that more than they love the concept of freedom in itself. So with that said, guys, I'm going to get out of here, and you guys have a great start to your Monday. And if I can get back later, I will. All right, guys. Bye for now.